Hello, friends. This is Jim with Science Talk, and kind of more follow-up stories here for you. Warming climate is driving species loss. A new study finds that steadily warming climate is increasing species loss, and is also, which means also decreasing biodiversity. And this pace of change is critical to population decline. In other words, it's getting to the point where the warming climate is driving species loss now. In addition to everything else humans do, ecosystem degradation and so forth. So, evidence abounds that the Earth's climate is warming fast and then faster than expected, and the threat of extinction is becoming more and more reality to more and more species. The problem has been how to statistically establish this linkage. In other words, you can take anecdotal evidence, you can take correlative evidence, but now how do you make a causative? How can you statistically verify this? And that's been a problem up to this point. So, though the rate at which and this is a statement from the Zoological Society of London's Institute of Zoology, in a report published in the journal Global Change Biology, though the rate at which the globe is warming has been found to be a critical factor in explaining the decline of birds and mammals. So now they're going to try and explain the best explanation. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of their methodology. The researchers looked at 987 populations of 481 species across the globe to find out how the rate of, 1, climate change and land use change from natural to human-dominated landscapes interact to affect the rate of decline of mammals and birds, and also to see whether species body size and location in protected areas make any difference. So that's kind of a quick overview of their methodology. They conclude that the best explanation for the rate of population declines, which scientists are seeing, is the rate at which the climate is warming. Now, I have done for you some videos looking at statistical, introductory statistical analyses. And I have explained to you on several occasions how we look at different parameters, different independent variables, and then we look at the contribution each of those individual variables make to the observed response. And there's also the interactive. If I have, for example, independent variable X, independent variable Y, okay, I can look at X and Y individually alone on the response on, say, dependent variable Z, but there may also be an interaction between X and Y themselves impacting the response seen by dependent variable Z. So you look at all these, they looked at all these parameters, and they did these statistical analyses, and they basically said, well, the rate at which the climate is warming is the most critical factor in driving the decline of birds and mammals. And I've also stressed with you on numerous occasions that the critical concept is not simply that warming is occurring, but the rate at which the warming is occurring. That's the critical concept. So this study highlights the black-tailed godwit, which has the scientific name lamosa in Germany and Senegal, the pink-footed geese, Anser brachyrhynchus in Canada, cheetahs, Oceanonyx jubatus in Uganda, and black-backed jackals, Canis mesomelis in Tanzania, as among species in decline. Birds are one of the groups worst affected by rapid climate warming, with effects twice as strong as in mammals. I just did a video segment looking at birds that are primarily insectivores and the issues that they're facing with their declining numbers. They also found that bird populations living outside protected areas are more severely affected. That really should not come as a surprise, but you know, it's one thing to think it, to hypothesize it. It's another thing to demonstrate that mathematically. The study lead author, Fiona Spooner from the Institute of Zoology and the UCL Center for Biodiversity and Environmental Research, said birds might be more vulnerable because their breeding seasons were particularly sensitive to temperature changes, as well as being tied into the life cycles of insects. And I have discussed with you guys before how if that timing is off, is mixed, missed, not mixed, but is missed, then that might increase the mortality of the chicks that the bird parents are trying to rear. This could, she continues to say, this could be leading to the loss of a link between their reproduction cycles and stable temperatures. Mammal breeding seasons are a lot more flexible, and this is reflected in the data. A recent study found that birds' unique vulnerabilities can also include their choice of diet, i.e. insects, as an example. Just probably say e.g. insects. The finding on avian reproduction patterns is crucial because if the rate at which the climate warms exceeds animals' maximum ability to adapt to environmental changes, local extinctions will start to become more prominent. The research stresses the urgency of understanding the vulnerability of animals to temperature increases and offers a snapshot of what may happen if climate change is not slowed. The study's senior co-author, Robin Freeman, head of the Indicators and Assessment Unit at the Institute of Zoology, said, our research shows that in areas where the rate of climate warming is worse, we see more rapid bird and mammal population declines. Unless we can find ways to reduce future warming, we can expect these declines to be much worse and obviously continue. He continues, adding, importantly, our findings does not suggest that human land use changes, such as for agriculture, development, or deforestation, do not play a role in the decline of birds and mammals, or that because the decline is climate change related, it is somehow something for future generations to deal with. What he's basically saying is that human land use is still negatively impacting, but again, it comes down to which independent variable provides a greater contribution to the observed response. That's what it comes down to. And this study is saying it's the rate of the warming. It is not discounting human changes to the ecosystem. That's still an important contributor, but if you look at which one contributes the highest percentage to the observed observations, the observed responses, it's the climate rate change. So, Professor Freeman states, this finding suggests additional data, including higher resolution landscape data, is needed to understand the mechanisms driving these declines. Now, basically, what he's saying there is a further data is needed from the impact of changing the ecosystem, as well as what else is happening with the data, air temperature, soil temperature, that kind of stuff. Gareth Redmond King, who's head of climate and energy at WWF in the UK, said this report provides further evidence of the growing threat that climate change poses to our wildlife, not only around the world, but right on our doorsteps. That's why we urgently need the UK government, obviously referring to situations within UK government to take action to meet current targets to cut greenhouse gas emission, but also to increase ambition to build a sustainable, climate-resilient future in which we restore nature, not destroy it. And every 2 years, WWF and ZSL jointly publish a Living Planet Index report. And that I will provide that URL as well so that you can go and read those reports. So, as we're seeing as more and more studies come out, it's not just simply warming the planet and melting the ice, but it's all the changes being done to the ecosystem, the impacts, typically negative, on organisms, wildlife, or vegetation around the planet. There is the danger of extinction, and with respect to humans, the lowering of crop yields, as well as the quality of the crops. I've done video segments addressing those issues and topics as well. So stay tuned, more is coming. Thank you for your time. Hey folks, this is Jim here reminding you to subscribe to this channel, to share my videos, tell others of the work that I do here. I also ask that if you are not already a patron at Patreon, to please consider becoming a patron at Patreon. You can find the information in the description box below the video. I'm asking you to help support the work that I do. I do not take any money from corporations or from any other sources, so the information I share with you is the actual science as it comes out of the peer-reviewed journals. So there is no BS, there's no propaganda, there's no agenda. It's just I present the science and I explain to you what it means, or at least my interpretations of it, based on my own experience as a scientist. I want this channel to grow. I consider, while I discuss many different topics here, you notice I do focus a lot on climate issues. I consider climate change to be the most pressing issue facing humanity today. Thus, I consider it important to disseminate this information to a wider and wider, more and more people. And I need your help to do this. So, yes, please subscribe. Please tell others of the work that I do here. Please share my videos on social media platforms, with your social media groups, what have you. We need to get this information out there. So for those of you who are supporting me on Patreon, I thank you greatly for your support and continued support. It does mean a lot to me. So together we can get this information to more and more people. Thank you. Thank you for your support.